In the outskirts of a quiet town, there lay an abandoned railway station known as Black Hollow Station. It had been closed for years, yet eerie stories about it never ceased. The locals believed that a ghostly train stopped there every midnight, taking away those who dared to board it, never to return. Ethan, Jack, Ryan, and Alex were 4 college friends who prided themselves on their bravery. They loved investigating paranormal places, and when they heard about Black Hollow Station, they knew they had to explore it. "It's all just urban legends," Ryan scoffed as they drove toward the station on a chilly autumn night. "There's no such thing as a ghost train." Jack, sitting in the passenger seat, grinned. "Then let's prove it tonight." They reached the station just before midnight. It was as desolate as they had imagined. Overgrown weeds covered the platform, rusted benches lined the waiting area, and the station building stood in eerie silence, its paint peeling off in long, jagged strips. A cold breeze whispered through the cracks of the wooden walls. As the clock struck midnight, a distant whistle pierced the silence. The 4 friends exchanged uneasy glances. "Did you hear that?" Alex asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded, his eyes fixed on the tracks. In the distance, a flickering light appeared, growing brighter with every passing second. Before they could react, a dilapidated train emerged from the fog, its wheels screeching against the rusted rails. The train looked ancient, its metal frame corroded and windows fogged with what looked like handprints. As it came to a stop, the doors slid open with a sinister creak. This isn't possible," Jack stammered. Ryan, always the daring one, smirked. "There's only one way to find out what's inside." Before anyone could stop him, he stepped into the train. The others hesitated but, not wanting to be left behind, followed him. The interior was worse than they had imagined. The seats were tattered, and a thick layer of dust coated everything. The air smelled damp, mixed with something metallic, like rust, or perhaps blood. Ryan ran his fingers across the back of a seat and flinched. "It's wet," he muttered, lifting his hand to see a dark red smear. "Okay, this is getting creepy. Let's go back," Alex suggested, turning toward the door. But the moment she reached for it, the train lurched forward. The doors slammed shut. No way out. Panic set in. They pounded on the doors, but they wouldn't budge. "The station is disappearing," Ethan shouted, pointing outside. Instead of the platform, all they could see was an endless tunnel of darkness. The overhead lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the carriage. A whisper echoed through the train, sending chills down their spines. Jack swallowed hard. "Did you hear that?" A sudden thud made them spin around. The seats that had been empty were now occupied by figures. Their clothes were tattered, their faces pale and gaunt, their eyes hollow pits of darkness. They sat motionless, but their heads slowly turned toward the 4 intruders. Who are they?" Alex whispered in terror. One of the figures, a woman with long, stringy hair and a torn dress, grinned widely, revealing blackened teeth. "You shouldn't be here," she rasped. Ethan grabbed Ryan's arm. "We need to get to the next carriage. Maybe there's another exit." They ran, stumbling through the dimly lit compartments. Each one was filled with more silent passengers, their soulless eyes following them. Then, suddenly, a conductor appeared. He was unlike the others, tall, dressed in a dark, old-fashioned uniform, and his face hidden beneath the brim of his hat. "Tickets, please," he said in a deep, guttural voice. Ryan, still trying to mask his fear, chuckled nervously. We don't have any." The conductor lifted his head, revealing a face that was nothing but a skull, hollow sockets burning with an unnatural light. "Then you cannot leave." Jack yanked a rusted metal rod from a nearby seat and swung it at a window. The glass shattered, but instead of the outside world, there was only swirling darkness beyond. "There's no way out," Alex cried. The ghostly passengers began to rise from their seats, their mouths opening unnaturally wide, as if preparing to devour them. Desperate, Ethan recalled something he had read about haunted locations. If this train is cursed, maybe it's bound by a specific event. Like what? Ryan asked, barely dodging a clawed hand reaching for him. A tragedy, Ethan said. Maybe the train crashed years ago, and the spirits inside are stuck in a loop. If we can break that loop, we might escape. How do we do that? Alex screamed. Unraveling the past, Ethan spotted an old newspaper lying on a seat. The headline read, "Train disaster claims 50 lives, Midnight Express never reaches destination." "This is the Midnight Express. It crashed decades ago," Ethan exclaimed. Ryan turned to the ghostly conductor. "You're all stuck here, aren't you? You never reached your destination." The conductor hesitated for a moment, as if remembering something long forgotten. "We were supposed to arrive, but we never did," he murmured, his skeletal face contorting with sorrow. Jack had an idea. "What if we convince them they've arrived?" He turned to the conductor. "This is the last stop. You can get off now." The ghosts seemed uncertain. Some exchanged confused glances, while others remained motionless. Ethan joined in. "The journey is over. You can rest now." The air around them grew heavier. The spirits let out deep sighs, their forms flickering. One by one, they began to fade, until only the conductor remained. He nodded slowly. "Thank you." And then he too disappeared. The train screeched to a halt. The doors swung open, revealing Black Hollow Station just as they had left it. They ran out, gasping for breath, and turned back, only to see the train vanish into thin air. Their car was still parked where they had left it. As they climbed in, Alex turned to the group. "We were lucky. But what if someone else boards the train one day?" Ethan exhaled deeply. "Let's just hope they figure out the truth before it's too late." As they drove away, the whistle of the Midnight Express echoed in the distance. Was it just their imagination, or was the train still waiting for its next passengers? One thing was certain, none of them would ever return to Black Hollow Station again.